Ed Sheeran, Emma Stone, Rupert Grint. These are just a few of the redheads showing that yes, gingers can be seen and yes, they will be seen. But they are up against a big force. A force that every step of the way are trying to marginalise people with red hair. A powerful force. I'm looking directly at you, Disney. Now, in honour of all my redheads out there, I'm going to do something that I don't usually do and I do not do lightly. A sign of respect. This is for you. Now, this is actually something that came about a few years ago now that somebody noticed, but I've noticed that it's still happening. And it's the fact that Disney is constantly replacing redheads. It's not news at this point, but Disney is trying to be as woke as possible. And throughout this, they're trying to correct past mistakes. Historically, Disney has had a preference for young, skinny, white women with an American accent. Now, they're trying to correct their wrongs, and they're trying to diverse where they can, which is a great thing. But in doing that, they've been targeting redheads. Just look at this photo here. These are all of the Disney-owned redheads that have been replaced in live-action remakes. First of all, we're getting to a point now where I think they're doing it more for profit than they actually are politically correctness. Because let's face it, they're taking all the films that they know are a success and everything that they know people love, and they're just remaking it to be more diverse. But the fact is that most of these stories weren't made up by Disney. Most of these stories are just fairy tales. They're known fables that Disney have taken. The fact that those are centered around these white people wasn't because there was no diverse stories. It was because those are the ones that Disney chose. It's because those are the ones that Disney gave the time of day. About 90% of Disney's repertoire is from the Brothers Grimm. Of course, they were writing about white people. So if Disney really wants to be more diverse, instead of focusing on remaking the classics, why don't you focus on finding new stories that are centered around more diverse characters? Instead of taking Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and trying to make the dwarfs not dwarfs, like I've just done a whole video about that, instead of trying to take The Little Mermaid and completely changing her, which I actually think turned out very well, but still the point's there, why don't you just find stories that were based around those cultures? Because these stories you have are taken from real life stories. And if you go in the middle of nowhere, Africa, they wasn't telling stories about white princesses finding love with white princes. They were telling stories about strong black princesses. If you go out in the middle of Mongolia, you think they were telling their kids stories about powerful skinny white Americans? No, they weren't doing that. They were telling stories about Mongolian royalty, about Mongolian princesses. So the stories do exist. It's just way back when Disney started, you didn't give them the time of day because it was run by a bunch of racists. And now, when you've got the opportunity to tell those stories and to tell people's cultures, you're not doing it. Instead, you're just trying to diverse the stories that you already know are successes. But I'm sidetracking. The main point of this is the people who are getting replaced are redheads. Because let's just look at the stories that you've already remade. You took Cinderella, but you kept her a pretty white blonde. She's still the belle of the ball. And speaking about belles, you took Beauty and the Beast, and you kept her looking the same. What about Alice in Wonderland? You see no reason to diverse that little blonde girl. No, no, no. However, when it came to Hercules, the strongest hero in pretty much all of Greek mythology, notably Ginger. And who did you get to play him? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You took the most ginger princess that you've got in your repertoire, Ariel, and you changed her. And what about Anna? That little ginger rapscallion. You changed her, didn't you? Got rid of her ginger locks. And don't you tell me it was because you were trying to diverse, because let me tell you, Annie was known for this big, ginger, curly, afro-like hair. And there are a lot of young, talented black actors with big ginger locks. It's not about the colour because, hey, not all gingers are white. You could have had Anna both black and still ginger, but you changed it. You had a motive to get rid of all the redheads. What about Peter Pan? You've remade Peter Pan about 3 or 4 times now, and none of those have been ginger. The moment you got a chance to remake that, you took away his ginger locks. And now in the new movie, when you're trying to diverse, what do? Take away his ginger locks. And I actually hold a lot of resentment against this new Peter Pan. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you've not seen it, do not waste your time in watching it. It is terrible. They've remade it, but once again, they've done this thing Disney's doing where they're trying to diverse the cast as much as possible, but they're showcasing that it's no longer about the talent and it's just about trying to be diverse. And a great point to make is all the characters that they kept looking like they did in the book or the earlier works, or the characters that were white, because hey, Peter Pan was pretty whitewashed, wasn't it? Let's be honest. All those characters that you had no intention to change were really good. It's like you went through a rigorous auditioning process to find those people. Captain Hook and Wendy. Wendy was an absolute star in that film. She sounded and acted exactly like Wendy. But when it comes to the characters that they decided to change, that they decided to show a bit more diversity, such as Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, they were absolutely terrible. And it's almost like they cared more about just having a diverse look than the actual talent. And I don't blame the actors for this, because Tinkerbell always had these like comical moments, and she got no chance to do that in the new film. It's like they put all this emphasis on, guess what, we've got a black Tinkerbell, and then gave her nothing to actually do. She was boring. I don't blame the actor for that, because she didn't write the script. And when it comes to Peter Pan, I feel sorry for him, because he was a really bad actor. And if you look at his past, he's a really young boy. He's done music theatre. He's done musical theatre in his past, but he hasn't done any films before. So it was his first role. And there must have been a process in like the first week or the first couple of weeks of filming when they realised that he just wasn't a great actor, and maybe he needed some time to develop. Maybe they should have had him as a lost boy and instead pick someone else to be Peter. But in their heads, I feel like they were like, no, he's diverse, so he's being Peter Pan. But he was terrible, so it's made him look silly. And have you seen what they did to Tiger Lily? They absolutely butchered Tiger Lily. So it looks bad when you're talking about the film and you're saying, well, I loved Wendy and I loved Captain Hook, but Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, Tiger Lily, they were terrible. And it's like, oh, so you like all of the white actors, but you don't like anyone else. It doesn't look good, but the truth is that Disney went out of their way to be so diverse that they put no thought into who were playing those characters, because there's a lot of great people that could have played Peter Pan that were diverse. I can think of at least 5 actors that would have fit your bill of what you were looking for, but would have done a great job. But you didn't do it. And the main point about Peter Pan, is that it was no longer ginger. You took away his red locks. Why, Disney? Why? What is it that you've got against redheads? Why do you hate gingers? Why are gingers being marginalised by Disney? And what are we? What are we going to do about it? Where's the woke community now? Wake up, woke community. It's time to start TikToking. It's time to start talking about this. Justice for gingers.